Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about simple normalization. In the previous lecture, I have gone through my PowerPoint slide about the normalization, and I have covered up to 4 normal forms, but we only want to convert up to 3 normal forms. So I decided to just in this presentation cover up to 3 normal forms and basically go through simplified steps that can help you understand the normalization process better. So basically what we are trying to say about normalization is that we are trying to actually break the one big table into smaller tables. So we are trying to do decomposition and or maybe in another word, dividing the big huge table that we might have, or maybe we have it in a spreadsheet or Excel, and then dividing it into a smaller table that can be manageable. Some of the benefits of normalization is that it can help us to sort faster. It is easier to create index, and it's also simplified the structure of tables. Also, we can reduce redundancy and make sure that we have the data consistency. So let's go through the different types of normalization. Based on dependency, the normalization forms are classified as first normal form, and then we will talk about, after we convert it to first normal form, then how we can convert the data into second and third normal form using functional dependencies. In the industry, mostly they convert up to third normal form. So what is the first normal form? So there are some rules into basically these normal forms. We have to first follow the rule and then follow the steps to convert into the normal forms. So the first rule is that a table is said to be in first normal form if each cell of the table contains only one value. So let's look at this table. This is a project table. In this table, we have the project code contains 2 values, also hours. So we want to actually convert this into a first normal form. That means each cell of the table contains only one value. So this should consist only one value. So the data in our previous table was not normalized because it had 2 attributes, project code and hours, that they had more than one value. So let's apply the rule to the first normal form. By applying the first normal form rule to the project table, we can get this result. So as you can see in this example, now we have each attribute has one value and we have one record. So let's look at second and third normal form. Now we are going to normalize using functional dependencies. So let's see what is a functional dependencies. Given 2 sets of attributes, x and y, we can say that y is said to be functionally dependent to x, or we can say x determines y. So let's look at this example, the employee table. Employee table contains a code, name, and city. So when we look at this, we can see that this is at least in the first normal form if we apply the first normal form rule. So the code has only one value for the attribute name. For the code E1, there is exactly one value of name Henry, and for E2, there is one value of name John. So name is basically functionally dependent to the code. Also for city, city is also functionally dependent to code, because for each city, there are 1 codes. Now that we understood the functional dependencies, let's try to convert into the second normal form. So there is a rule for second normal form. The rule is a table is said to be in second normal form when it is in the first normal form and every attribute in the row is functionally dependent on the whole key fully, not just part of the key. And we will talk more about fully dependent on the key and partial key. What do we mean by that? So let's look at the project table. So in here, when we look at the first normal form rule, we know that our table is in first normal form. So in order to be in the second normal form, first we have to make sure that it is in the first normal form, and then we have to apply another rule. So the project table, as we said, is in first normal form and check whether the attribute is functionally dependent on whole key or not. So this is the second part of the rule. So each employee code has more than one value of hours. So if we look at here, we can see that each employee E101 has 90 hours. Also E101 has 150 hours. E102 has two values of hours as well, 100 and 60. So hours is not functionally dependent on employee code. So employee code doesn't determine the hours. So let's look at the project code as well. We can see that employee code E101 has one project code P27 and also P51. Same for E102. E102 has more than one project code P27 as well as P22. So project code is not functionally dependent on hours as well. So therefore, we can say that project code doesn't determine hours by itself. The combination of employee code and project code, however, have exactly one value of hours. So if we have the combination of E101 and P27 has 90 hours. And if we combine the E101 and P51 also has 150 hours. So employee code and project code is functionally dependent on the whole key, which is hours. So employee code and project code can together determine the hours. So let's look at this. A department is functionally dependent on the whole key of employee code. So the department system has only one value of employee code, 101, and the department sales have only one value of employee 102. So employee code determines the department, as you can see in this example. So let's look at some of the guidelines. How do we convert into the second normal form? First, we have to find and remove the attributes that are functionally dependent on only a part of key and not on the whole key, and place them into the separate table. According to our guidelines, the table project is normalized into the second normal form. How do we do that? First, department is functionally dependent on the whole key. Employee code. So place these two attributes in a separate table and name it employee department. So we put the employee code and department together and we will call it employee department table. The combination of employee code and project code is functionally dependent on the whole key. So employee code together with project code determines hour. So we put them into one other table and we call it a project table. So this is now also in a separate table.